All right. Good afternoon. It's actually afternoon here, so that's pretty cool. Fred, nice to meet you and nice to see you here.
Hello. What's up?
Hello. I'm going to skip your last name. I'm going to let you tell your last name, but I'll give you. Can you give us a little small introduction and also your last name? Because I'm having a hard time pronouncing that one.
Small introduction. Yes, of course. My name is Fred. Last name is Linfjärd. Say it Linfjärd. It's weird, so you don't have to say it. I am a Swede. I live in Sweden. I work in Copenhagen for a company called Planday. I'm also an advisor as a side hustle, helping companies in various growth-related topics. Could be on acquisition side. It could be on the product side. Could be on the monetization side. And what else? Yeah, used to be a musician, I guess, or tried to be.
Actually, that's the first topic I really wanted to talk about. So I saw that you actually start marketing to be able to fund your music career. So what happened to the career, man? What sort of music did you play, and how was the Rockstar life treating you?
Yeah, I don't think I really knew that it was marketing. Yeah, I've been. My family is a musical family. My brother is a guitarist. I started to play guitar early, playing in bands, mostly metal, to be honest, in the early days. Played with the death metal band, released some albums, toured the US, and then played in some pop bands, did some touring. So, and kind of, I don't know, worked as try to do whatever I could to kind of survive doing that, I guess. That's about it.
What's your biggest hit, basically? For how many people did you have to play once? Like, what's your biggest amount?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, we're not talking big here, right? Death metal, it could be everything from like one person in the audience to maybe a couple of 400 or 500. I don't know. So it's varied really, but yeah, a few hundred and yeah, always been playing music, whatever instrument I can find, still do it. Still have a guitar next to me here to play. It's get some therapy going on when you need it, in the work life.
Well, I think before this chat, you said your daughter wanted you to become like a YouTube star, right? Is that maybe something you would go back to, like rock star, YouTube star?
Good question. No, I don't think so. I don't think I would enjoy film myself that much. Like really, like.
Okay, so no rock star, maybe something else. So yeah, coming back to your marketing journey. So what I've understood is that you started in affiliate marketing, if I'm not mistaken, some SEO. Can you talk me how you went from like rock star to like affiliate marketing SEO? Because that doesn't really seem to be the same thing.
Sure. First, rockstar is a very overstatement, but we can just say we can call it that. No, I've always feel it's been two things I've been doing all my life from a like early stage. It's computers and it's music, right? So even starting with coding on a basic on a Commodore 64, I've always been fiddling with computers and when internet even was new. That's how old I am. Started to figure out how to build websites for fun. For the band or forever, and then slowly but surely, always had a kind of an entrepreneurial mind, figuring out is there a way to make money on this? So obviously, I started with building sites using ClickSense ads, various affiliates things, and it was kind of on that path that I kind of learned a lot, right? Because you learn so much when you build a website, which is kind of like, I mean, it's a business around it. You have to find a niche, and then you have to make sure that everyone sees it, and then you have to have the offer, right? So I went from there to kind of figuring out how can I do that faster, to go from finding a niche to have a site up and have it, ranked or have ads on it as fast as possible. So I've always been, the process has always been more attractive to me than actually building it. And I think that's probably why I'm in this new buzzword field called growth now, where it's very much a systematic approach, right? So I had a bunch of sites and making money on that, and then I kind of went into doing some e-commerce stuff as well, and drop shipping, and then you get Google slapped a couple of times, and that sucks. And in the end, I gave up music and started university, I guess.
You realize maybe this band thing doesn't really gonna support my career, and money wise, I need to do something else.
Yeah, pretty much. But great learning. I mean, you learn so much by doing, and that's kind of how I always been doing it. Even in university, I never been a linear learner. I always had to kind of figure out myself how to get to the end result.
Nice. So before we get to your growth career, I would say, or the buzzword career, as you would like to call it, I was having a chat with Stefan from Dream Data. I think it was now 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm talking to Fred a little bit later on, and he's like, asking this one question. I was like, okay, what is the question? So his question was, why do you call yourself the growth janitor? What does that mean?
Yeah, the growth janitor. Oh yeah, it's kind of like it's funny and sad at the same time. No, but the thing is with growth, right? You need speed, so you need to have the right systems in place. You need to have decent quality on data in order to be able to run this kind of a scientific process. And that's usually not the case when you go into a company that you have all those things. So I always joke around that the first thing I have to do is I kind of be a janitor, go and change the light bulbs and change out the generator or the pump in the basement, and ripping out the marketing automation system or an e-commerce platform, putting something else in, cleaning up data. And so I happen to have found myself in my career finding these companies that have these problems, because that's really about the speed is you want to do something, and then in order to execute an experiment, something, you have to build something, and that takes a lot of time, right? So I think when you come into company, you have to put the limit on how much time you can spend on fixing the foundations, maximum 6 months, right? And then basically estimate what can you do, how fast can you go with that foundation, especially when you communicate in the organization what they can expect and what you're about to do. So I hope that was an okay answer.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, because I think when we speak to most people, they're talking about, okay, there's hacky things they're doing, and the scraping and all of that stuff, or some Google ads, structuring or whatever it is. But if you think about it, all that is not possible without the systems behind it. And I think that's the interesting conversation I want to have with you today, is about how do you build the systems? Because nobody talks about the system. Everybody talks about, I don't know, the structure, the ads, the landing pages, all that stuff, but not really about the system that fuels this process and people that go behind it. So that's let's talk about the janitor thing a little bit later on, but I'm really curious about those things.
No, and it's kind of been, I've learned this the hard way. So I mean, obviously, as a technical marketer, or I would actually say, I actually don't call myself a marketer, because I'm equally feel as a product manager, because because it really starts with the product as well at first. So as a technical sort of growth person, you can hack together things fast, right? even though the systems are not there, you can hack it. But it's always you can't run the business on those experiments, right? Setups, right? That's just there to prove really a hypothesis, and you want to prove that in the fastest possible way, right? But if you continue to just run it like that and you keep doing that, then you're kind of leaving a trail of shit after you. And it might cause a lot of issues, and it's going to come back and hit you severely by the time you want to go to your next growth stage, right? So it could be that maybe it's after an acquisition or something like that. So you need to have a plan also. Well, if we do this test and it's succeeded, like how do we actually roll it out? But that is not really my job. Sometimes I give the recommendation. I see myself as I should give the recommendation, but it's probably someone else that should be building that foundation. But if it is you that builds it, well, then you need to also factor that in, that okay, I can run this test, but then I need to spend another X week to make sure that this is a sustainable way of running it. You can't just have SAPs or Zapier and like scripts on Heroku app, everywhere. Like it has to be kind of scalable. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that I think brings me to the first topic I want to talk about, more about the career steps. I feel that's always an interesting way to. I mean, you are the person who you are today, but you don't come from there. You've done music, you've done affiliate, and you've done a bunch of stuff in between. I think that's the first thing I really want to talk about is your, the part where we walk through the journey as you as a person. I think the first thing I really wanted to see is there's a bunch of advice out there. Like if you go to Google, nowadays I think people just go to ChatGPT for advice, but let's say that people still go to Google, the majority. There's a lot of advice. So what advice would you have for growth leaders who are trying to build these cross-functional teams and really get buy-in from other departments? Because I know you've been talking about it a lot. I know it's a big thing you're focusing on, but what things would you recommend to these new leaders out there that are trying to build these cross-functional teams and make sure that they're aligned on the same goals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's and it's something that I've also learned and still learning, is you kind of have to assess the organization even before you join, how much change management that needs to happen in order to to achieve those results. Because many times it really is internally you have to do most of the work, right? I mean, I could take an example. I worked at a company called Capture One before, and there it was more of I needed to kind of put in some new growth levers, new systems and stuff like that, and it took, knowing what I needed took 5 minutes, but actually getting it in place and influence everyone basically took a year, and I kind of lost, I got gray hairs even doing it, but then it became really successful. But so I think you need to really home in on and find your allies, and the best way to do that is really to prove it, right? So if you identify the opportunities that are there, easy to grab fast, and you get them and you show those results and you earn a little bit of credibility, it gives you some breathing room, and then you do that again and you get more credibility. That's my approach, I think, and that's the best thing to do. So kind of, if you go in, look at the first 90 days, you're going to see directly, okay, there we can fix these things, do that, and then earn that credibility, not just in your team, because in growth you're supposed to be kind of a layer on top of all teams. So you need to at Capture One, I came down even to the IT department with like a bowl of chocolate, right? And because they had built the e-commerce platform. It's a home built thing, and it was the 10 years old, and I had to really, they're scared of the house burning down, right? And you kind of have to respect those facts and see it from there. Where usually no one has any ill intent. So you need to really try to influence, and to do that you need time, and figure that out, and how to communicate with these different people. So I think that is my advice is, when you come in, is to get the low hanging fruits, showcase those things. If you're technical, you can do it. You can, build 70% yourself usually, and then you just run it. And sometimes it's better not to ask for permission, or ask too many people, because everyone wants to have an opinion, right? So sometimes you need to go a little bit rogue, and place your bets. I don't know. Did I answer the question?
That definitely answered the question, and I'll even add to that. It's for you. I think you mentioned on what to focus on when you start in. I would also add to the fact that seeing what you have to protect, I would say. And what do I mean with this? I'll share an example. So tomorrow I have a presentation. Is it tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow I have a presentation around why we should keep HubSpot and not implement Pardo, the Salesforce marketing stack. That is really, yeah. It's easy
Pardo
for you.
No.
Yeah, it's easy for you and me to explain that. But this is really sometimes like they've been working with HubSpot for I think 3-4 years. There's massive building integrations, everything. And then suddenly the question comes up, yeah, we should maybe try Pardo because it's Salesforce, right? We already use Salesforce. So why don't we just get that? So it's like, okay. And this question has been coming up every single year. Every time a marketing leader changes as well, it's like, okay, let's have that question again. Let's have that discussion again. So I think it's one, what do we need to change? What's the mindset we need to change? And also, what do we need to protect as a team? Because there's certain things that we need to have as an operational ways in order to build speeds. And it was funny because I asked the HubSpot guy, I was like, if you would have to paint a picture, basically, how you would compare both. He sends me a picture, one with a Ferrari being HubSpot, speed. I think that's what you mentioned. You need speed. The other guy and the other one is a tank. It's like, you'll crush people, but you need 5 people to really maintain it and make sure the beast works, basically. That's what you're looking for. It's like, okay, that's the picture I'm going to start with. Ferrari versus tank. Which one do you want?
I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've done those presentations. I've done so many because I've bought so many of these systems and replaced them. I kind of found a good strategy for how to do those, and because it's like everyone wants the tool, and I think the tools doesn't give it doesn't matter really. The tool doesn't matter. It's there. It's there to serve a purpose. That's why I don't have a certification in HubSpot or Marketo, even though I know know those systems. But it's they're not going to be there forever. So there's a couple of things you need to do when you buy a tool. You need to understand how long am I going to need it for until I need to replace it. So, and then you need to ensure you don't want to marry into the tool. So how do you actually integrate it? And being able to explain that very technically to developers, this is be able to communicate the risks and the gains is really key, right? And maybe sometimes Pardo is the right thing. At Capture One we had Marketo, right? I mean, it's a huge sophisticated tool. You need like a department to take care of that, but it's not good for speed, right? So
no.
Sometimes you need to start with something small and fast, and then learn by the way. So then the next step, then you might need to go to the next solution. So I try to communicate 3 kind of I have a tech deck, a slide deck, where I kind of start with here we now, and it's going to take about this time here, and next step we might need to go to this solution here or that one, depending on what we're having. So I try to paint that picture, but it's people really are in love with their tools, and they bring them with them to different companies, and it can cause so much noise and opposite of speed, slow things down. You buy the wrong tool, it's going to set you back, right? It's the same as you hire the wrong person, really.
We can have a good conversation about this. I love it.
Yeah, we can do it offline.
Yeah, we'll take care of that offline. But that is an amazing chat I want to have later on. Maybe a quick question, basically. Did you ever fuck up? I think everybody in our careers fucked up once. I have many fuck ups, basically. But what's like, if you had to think about one fuck up you had in your career, which one would you like? Which one do you remember?
Oh, I got two good ones here. Number one, I've done a couple of wrong email sendouts to like
Ooh.
a few million people. Obviously I've done that. So now all my workflows always have this delay before it sends out. It's like it's in my muscle memory, adding like a wait step. and so that saves me now. I should have it on my normal emails too. I actually do sometimes, but so I've done a couple of those ones, sending out, but that's kind of that shit happens, right? I mean, I've also killed a couple of APIs by doing some tests put together that I haven't really assessed how much the API could handle and stuff like that. I also What else have I done? I remember early in my career, I held a webinar for distributors, and I think I even was like a trainee or something at a big company, and I was like, after the webinar was done, I made a joke to my colleague, like said something like, all these questions, these fuckers should just buy this. And the record, and they were still on the webinar. And I like, oh my God, did they hear it? They are like our customers, and it came out the wrong way, but it was a complete joke. Stuff like that. So, I mean, I worked when I worked at a Home Depot in Sweden, I was going to order paintbrushes, 200, but I ordered like 20,000 instead. So it came like a truck with fucking paintbrushes, and like my boss was just like, I've done fuck ups and failed, but I've learned from every one of them. So that's good.
It's funny when you said emailing and then you're adding a delay. So you basically directly said, this is now what I do differently in my career before I send out an email. I don't think I know a lot of people that haven't fucked up an email, basically. Like, just because you just want to try things out, you're like, okay, let's just do this instead of like waiting for it. And then, I don't know, somebody ever fucked this email.
I mean, it's like, I think it's a mentality. So you have people probably like us. We are the people that go into an elevator and press all the buttons. Like I want to just press these buttons to see what happens, and then you're gonna fuck up. But then you have other types of people that are more I wonder what this button do, but I'm not gonna press it yet. I'm gonna go and ask someone. So I think we need both types for the world to go around and not explode or go too slow.
I think what I've seen is that you need us to initiate, basically, to get it done, basically. Just push a few buttons, and then once it's there, you need another person, an operator, to take that and say, okay, now I'm going to put this in a control environment and maybe kill a little bit of the speed, but at least we're doing it in a decent, structured way, basically. Because I don't know, I'm the guy that just pushes buttons and we'll figure it out. And then we at least get somewhere. Otherwise, everybody's thinking and everybody has an opinion. It's like, okay, now we just have 6 opinions and nothing done. That's worse.
I mean, exactly. I mean, I think we have to put it live because we're missing a piece of insight that we won't be able to get. I mean, we can only go so far, talking, internally, or even talking to customers. You can get so far, but at some point you need to decide if you need to test it, and also how to test it, right? Many times you shouldn't even be doing a test. You should be doing another type of evaluation. Some people just do tests, and that's also bad. So, but you're missing that piece of insight that you get when you actually are pushing it live and collecting it. So I try to just really ensure that before we push it live, I need to have like things in place so I can measure it and evaluate it. Otherwise, it is a complete waste, right? Inconclusive tests and
Actually,
whatever, right?
I wanted to ask you that question. It's just top of mind. It's like, I'll ask the question and I'll rephrase a little bit. So the question is, what's your testing philosophy? And I'll rephrase in a second. So what I've seen is that a lot of people are color testing. What button works better, red or green? I don't know. Should we have like a short form or a longer form, basically? So there's like all these things, and then people just let's put it to a test. So I feel like we went from let's not test anything, just do. And then now it's like, because we have so much data, let's test. And now we have less data because of cookies and GDPR. So now we have less data. So what's your testing philosophy, in sense like, what are the things that you should test? What are the things that you're like, fuck man, you just have to do it? Like, walk me through that testing philosophy of yours.
Well, I'm definitely not a color button testing. I think I mean, I've done those too a long time ago, and I think it depends on what the business are. Like, I mean, B2C e-commerce versus B2B, you're gonna have two very, very different testing programs, right? I mean, just for the sake that you don't have enough volume, right? But I think no matter if it's B2B or B2C, you have to have a portfolio that includes big bets, and those big bets are usually things that it's not something you're going to really read advice or best practice or something like that. It's going to be like bigger bets that are kind of, going from where you need to look at, like, from the first part of the funnel to even all the way to where you actually get the ARR, right? So you need to kind of mix and mix your bets and allocate your kind of the risks there. Like, if you only do these small tests, especially on B2B, like only like, oh, I'm going to change the image there and blah blah, I don't think it's going to have that impact, because it's going to take a really long time to know if it's working, right? I mean, if you have like a sales cycle for 100 days from first touch to op one, you need to do a big bet, right? So you need to change a lot of things, and you can't maybe do an A/B test of that. So for B2B, I think it's much more important to really work on and testing value propositions and things like that. Looking at your website as a whole, and am I really communicating the jobs to be done, and these things, versus I'm going to test this image for that. And I just try to go for B2B. I just try to think personalized, relevant. Like, if I can make it as relevant to the individual user, especially if your product can solve many problems, I'm always going to try to go to how can I make sure that we show the right message to the right person. And it could be something easy like, hey, these PPC ads are going to go to that page. These PPC ads are going to go to that page, and stuff like that. And I don't really think you need a test for that. I think that's just common sense. Many people test too much, because that takes a long time. I mean, if you test, you should do it right, and A/B testing done right, it's scientific. So you need to spend some time building a test, make sure it's QA'd, make sure you don't have any errors, and you have the confidence level and the p-values and all these kind of things, right? So
I think I'm summarizing it.
Instinct. You have to trust your instinct too, a lot more in B2B than in B2C. I mean, and I know I'm talking a lot of it, but B2C, it's a lot bigger things. There would be like testing if purchasing in local currencies, right? Testing local payment methods. Like, those are the things that I start with, and that's what I did when at Capture One, when we really was B2C, like doing those type of things, showing prices in a different way. I don't know.
But these are, if you think about it, almost like product things. Like it's very vague nowadays, but it's almost like product things. And I feel the big bets are mostly in the product, not in the marketing. Because in marketing, we can go fast, I feel, at least when the systems are in place, the thing that we talked about earlier. But like for the big bets, it's almost always product related that comes up. Unless you're doing like big events, for example, like a big event, I would say, would that like be a big bet for you? Like let's host this, I don't know, like a summit with 500 people offline. Is that a big bet or is that just like a strategy?
I mean, that's definitely a big bet. I think I think you know, and events is not really my specialty, even though, but I have been figuring out how can we get the most out of events. Like, should we have a competition or you have to stand out, right? You need to stand out. Like I remember we did at SCAF, you know, it's an engineering company. We went to an event, one event every year, a big one, and then we spend a huge amount of money on that one. That's and we come up with things like bring in your like test, bring in your lubrication, and we'll test it on site, right? And like, you know, instead of doing like we need to be on these 5 events, and we just buy the smallest monitor and you stand there. So I don't know. It's events cost a lot of money, so I guess that is a big bet. But I think to your point with product and growth, like I think, you know, you can only market as good as the product can actually deliver on the promise that you're telling them in your marketing, right? I mean,
Mm.
if you're because that's marketing is actually, we're setting the scene what they're going to expect, and if that's not getting delivered, you need to solve that first. Otherwise, you can't. You're just going to get the people churning when they go into the product, and that's super common. That's why I think a growth team should not sit in marketing or should not sit in the product. It should actually be neutral and be able to work across, because you really work on acquisition and you know, retention and monetization as a whole, and then you can actually pick up a metric as a growth team. And we're going to pick up this metric, we're going to own it for 3 to 6 months, we're going to make a huge dent, and then we're going to deliver, turn it over to another team. And so a growth team in that sense should probably report to you know, maybe the CEO in the start, or something like that, and because that team can go in, can take out some resources and really make a dent. Now when if you're in marketing, then you can only impact the acquisition part. You don't have as much control on the product, and even though I really try, and I think at Planday, I think we've come a long way where we're working much more towards that, to be more you know, aligned on that and figure that out. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's. I think it's some good topics. I would say what I learned, what I like is the big bets. I don't think a lot of people take big bets. They take small bets, and I think the second thing is that some tests, don't put it into a test. Just run it. Just do
Yeah.
it quickly. Just like don't even call it a test. Just like this is just obvious. Like okay, you see this keyword is not converting. Well, then change the landing page. Okay, obvious. Just put
Yeah.
it in there.
Yeah, and I know what you're referring to. Sometimes you have to do things. You're gonna know what I'm talking about here. To train people into a process. Like, I mean, let's take the example of with, you know, the test, like for instance, increasing quality score to drive down CPC. You know, you don't need a test for that. You know that's going to happen. But going through that exercise, especially if there's like new people to growth, creating a document where they fill out all the things, monitor it, fill in the results, having a structure, that is the value there. So sometimes when you have a new team and stuff like that, you need to also have these kind of things in the mix that to learn people to get into that process, because ultimately it's the process you want to optimize. You want that cycle
Yes.
to go faster. So you need to sometimes do that. But I totally agree with you. Many times it's just like you just do it. Like that's the thing. You just do it. You don't even have to like. You know what's going to happen. This is a low hanging fruit, and I try to put them to the side and just get that done, right?
But I think that's the best example I would say. So indeed, it's not a test, but sometimes you want to run like a low hanging small test just to train the team and train the process basically. Because ultimately it is the amount of tests you can run positively. That is what you want to influence basically. Now, there's always a caveat to me for that is like how many are really tests that we should be running that we already know are going to be successful. That's the caveat.
Yeah.
But indeed, it's training your team in order to follow a certain process. And at the end, I feel sometimes in the beginning, you have to fill in everything. And then after a while, once your team is trained, you don't really have to fill in everything still. It's just to know so that they just know all of the aspects that they have to take into account when running the experiment basically. But after a while, it's like riding a bike. It's like, okay, yes, of course I need a hypothesis. Yes, of course I need some insights from a sales member or from a client or whatever it is. But at least they followed the process in the first time. So I think I love that. Things like as a team leader, find a thing that you can run at small scale to train your team in order to just get this process started and also have a quick win, because the team now is like, oh, we have a win. That's nice. Let's get another win.
Exactly. You need to have wins, and even if the wins are the wins that we knew would be wins, it still feels good to have a win, and as a new person seeing, oh, I did all these things here and it turned out great, right? And then next time, we can do, because I mean 50% of the time when you run tests, it might not be a win, right? I mean, there's many times this beautiful page here converts much less than this ugly piece of page, right? Like that's happened to me many times, and it's the same thing where you deal with internal teams. Like, hey, these ads are much more on brand or much prettier than these ads here, but they convert, right? So it's like, okay, then if it converts, we need to have a discussion about, well, why does it convert better, and how can what is it with that thing there that is not on brand, or like, do you know what I mean? I try to put my opinions, I check my ego when I enter the door, right? Because I don't know like what's right. I have an intuition and I have an experience, but it will only take me so far, right? So I never try to mix in my opinions. There will always be biased, but you have to kind of, I think as time go by, I mean, and you know that yourself, Ricardo, like you home in your instincts, will take you much further than you knew. So I try to like, and it's what I recommend younger people that I talk to, like, oh, what should I want to work in growth. What should I focus on? And I'm like, well, like really in growth, it's about learn how to learn, right? Things will always evolve. If there's something that I've always spent time to control, is learn how to learn. And what does that mean for me? Well, I have like very disciplined hours per week that I just learn, like where I sit and I learn, and sometimes I there might be an experiment where, okay, I'm going to take the time to build this the slow way, because I know I'm going to learn so many things about this that I'm going to be able to make use of later. So just learning how to learn. Do you know what I mean? Sucking in, like, I know, like, I want to feel that when someone, if it's like a job interview or something, like, do you know how to do that? I want to tell that I want to be able to lie to that person in their face, say like, I know how to do that, and then I will go and I will take a week and I'll learn it and I'll exceed on it, right? I'm not saying that like that you should lie to people, but you know the metaphor. Like, you want to build up that confidence in yourself, that you feel that I can figure that out. Like I know how
Mm.
to learn. I know how to digest a lot of information and pick out the parts that are most important, and then actually execute on it, and it's going to like work, be a good thing. And it might fail, it might succeed, but I'll learn. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It's actually a question I wanted to ask you a little later on, because it refers to what I learned from Brian Balfour, I think in a blog post. I think it was like 7 years ago or something like that. And I think it was also a blog post like how to get into growth, or like what to learn basically.
I love that
And
too.
it was one
It's
thing
great.
is one thing where I learned, where the guy said, you know what, you don't have to, like, the best ways to like expand your career is to get into a situation where you know 50% of what you need to do, but the other 50% you have no idea what to do basically, because that's where you learn. You know a little bit how to, like, for example, you need to implement a new marketing automation. You've worked with MailChimp, you know a little bit about marketing automation, but have you really implemented like a whole CDP platform, customer data platform? Maybe not, but you've done maybe marketing automation. So CDP might be a new thing, but it's always a little bit the same thing. So trying to get to that, I'm going to try something 50%. I know it because of my background. And then 50%, I'm just going to learn on the spot, basically. And I think that's the best ways to put yourself, is finding projects and things where you know that 50% I know, 50% I have no idea what to do here. And I think that's a fun situation, I would say. Worst situations is where you know 10% and 90% you still have to learn. Then most of the time it's quite hard to, because you have no guidance, I would say. You have no idea what you're doing and you have no sense of direction, I would say. So I think that kind of aligns with what you're saying, is that learn how to learn and find projects where you know 50% of what to do, and the rest, figure it out.
I mean, yeah, I totally subscribe to that sentiment, and I think I Brian Balfour, I think I've taken a lot of inspiration. I really like his way of approaching this. And one thing that I learned, or that I found in now when you're on a director level, is to be able to do that to other people. Like for instance, in my team, uh, having someone like, hey, why don't you set this up in LinkedIn? Like, I've never done that before. No, it's not rocket science. Everything you need to know is going to be out there.
Mm.
Just figure it out, right? And seeing that, and then obviously make sure that no one else intervenes in that, even if it takes almost locking out, the head of paid of the system, that want to help, right? But really, really putting that person, and I know you know who I'm talking about, let them learn, because if there's someone else that telling them what to do, it's ruined. You're ruining all
Mm.
that experience. It's like, because not only will they learn, they will probably be better at you, because yeah, I know LinkedIn. I've done a lot of LinkedIn. I haven't done LinkedIn for the last one, for a long time. So I don't know it anymore. Probably, like I done AdWords shit ton in my career. I have no idea when I log in there what's going on there. It's like a 747 cockpit in there. I have no idea. Like, I need to get out of here. But so I thought that was a really good, felt really good to be able to see that person take ownership of something, figure out how it works, and actually do a great job on it. And because
Mm.
if you have the right mindset, if you hire for the right mindset and not their past experience, then that's going to work out and even become really good. And that's what I really try to think about when it comes to
Mm.
team members and personal development, etc.
I would add one thing to that, and I have a follow-up question. Is I remember the moment, because I started my career in Facebook ads, and I remember teaching somebody at the company Facebook ads, and there was a moment where that person said to me, Ricardo, I think you're wrong on this one. I think we should do it this way in Facebook ads. And I'm like, okay. I mean, first your ego strikes up. You're like, no, I think I know what I'm talking about. Second thing, your ego lowers down. You're like, okay, actually, this person is right. So I remember that moment where the person you've trained actually became better than you. And it was the most horrible and best day of my life. Because
I know.
horrible in sense of fuck, am I losing my like thing? And the second thing I realized, well, this guy actually is a girl. She's busy with this 5 days a week. I'm not anymore. This is not possible for me anymore. So it's the best day because you've been able to train somebody to become better than you. I think it's one of the most beautiful things that you can witness as a leader, I would say.
Absolutely agree. It is, and I think that is like when you go from have been the best. Like I have been the like individual contributor. I've been the best on like marketing automation experiment. I would like people would come to me and ask, and I would go and do it. To relinquish that control anymore, it is terrifying, and it's a big mindset change when you go up in your career and to do that. And I think I'm not fully there yet. I still have problems with that, and I think that's why I've kind of guided my career in a way where I have never had a huge team, right? And because of it's scary, right? And like all of a sudden, like you have results and you have people to worry about as well.
Yeah.
Like but what I've tried to come up with ways to go around that, and I think you have to look at it. Uh, okay, here are all the team members, and you need to. I've always had a good sense of people, like figuring out what their passion is and what they're good at. Because some people are going to, be naturally better at something than others. It could be like structure, project management, like something like that. And then you have to, as a manager, figure out like, okay, what are they naturally good at? What do they want to be better at? And then how can you leverage that and make them really feel that they are succeeding. So you need to kind of decide, here's my time bucket, how much of percentage wise should I give to these people, right? So there might be some people in the team that you might give 5% to, or others you might give 30% to for a period of time. And to make that tangible, sometimes, like for instance, automation is something I've done a lot. So I would spend some time and I would like let me build like the first part here the way I see it. So you can spend some time. You can actually go in, and that gives me a kick because I love to do the building too. I don't want to let that go. So it allows me to kind of I'll build the first draft, but that's not probably the end result here. I'll just build that, and then you look at it and come back to me, and then you'll take it from there. And that's and I think if you do it that way, it gives a good balance, to you still get your kick of building. I love it to put it together, and you also that person. It's not done. It's like 10% done. I still need to build like they still need to complete the rest of it. I mean, you to get them going. Sometimes people just need, even me need. I need some getting started thing, right?
Yeah. And maybe that relates to the next question I had is you've been at Planday now for a while, but do you remember like the first 100 days? Like what did you do with like the team? How did you like what was like the first 100 days for you? Do you remember?
Yeah, it wasn't like how I wanted it to be for because we had gone through an acquisition, and in mindset I was hesitant because I've been at a company before at Capture One where I helped take them to an acquisition. So a lot of the things I worked with there was contributed to the Capture One was another company, but that part became acquired in its own company. So you're part of that first journey, which is exciting. And then after the acquisition, there's a lot of turbulence. and ultimately I left Capture One, the same year the acquisition happened, because I felt my work was done. I've spent 4 years here. I have a huge amount. I'm super proud of it, and that's fine. And the same thing will happen at Planday. It's like they got acquired, and so you have some people that were part of the first journey, and now a lot of shit happens, change happens, and that can cause, I think our team imploded, everyone quit, or were done and felt like I'm going to move on. I was part of the first journey, which is very natural, and so that was a lot about that was like rebuilding, so a lot of hiring. So it was a little bit bummed out because I couldn't really do what I set out to do. But on the other hand, I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about hiring a lot of people. I don't think I've ever been part of so many hiring processes. So I learned a ton of on that. So in hindsight, it was actually very valuable for me to go through that and build up a team in a better way, and processes and around that. So, but it's always a hard time because targets and promised targets, it's never going away, right? And finding yourself in a situation where you have to either fix stuff or build stuff in order to do things, like hire, technical stuff. It's tough, right? Because you can't do so much with it might be hard to meet those results, and especially if you haven't set them, so they're inherited. Now we managed to get the reforecast and stuff like that, but those discussions are always, it's not what I would love. It's not what I love spending my days with, if you know what I mean. So I think when you are, as a person, joining a company or leaving a company, I think you need to really also look at, where are this company right now and where is it going? Okay, this company got acquired. Is this the right place for me to be? That's going to be chaotic. It's going to be a lot of changes. People are going to leave, and there are many people, and it's happened in Planday too. They started like, hey, this wasn't for me. I'm going to leave after a month or 2 months, which is something that you need to spot as a hiring manager, right? Like it shouldn't get that far that you actually hire someone. So I think that then ends, because you need to really be careful and when you hire someone that you are really transparent about these things, and even they might say like, yeah, that's no problem, because they not know. So you need to look for these signs when you have your interviews, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And so do you remember, like, apart from the hiring, I would say, is there like, when I try to come in, I always try to see what are like quick wins, basically, just to, I would say, build the confidence from your side, but also from, just marketing your time. Is there any quick wins you've implemented where you're like, just already like going through this process was a hell, so not really?
Yeah, I mean, there are some quick wins. We did some quick wins at Planday. I mean, like, excluding ads for people that logs in, like that saved us a shit ton of money, right? I mean, it's like it wasn't, it's like we shouldn't show ads for the people that click on an ad and they go and log in. So stuff like that, and then of course communicate that, and that gave me more credibility, so I could do bigger things, like, okay, well, we need to we need to put into a tool or something that could increase speed. So we put in Dream Data, actually, just because I needed a place outside our technical depth. That was actually the main reason. It wasn't, I mean, marketing attribution, that was good, but it actually allowed me to take the data out from all the shitty places and then like clean it up. And so at least the marketing data makes sense, and I can figure out a lot of things in the customer journey from first touch to, ARR, without having to rely on other teams to build sales force report, waiting for ops teams to fix flows, if that makes sense. So, but in order to do that, to get an investment for that, I obviously had to build up some credibility, which I did with implementing some wins that we're talking about, right?
I love that you brought this up because it's a discussion I had this week as well. Is that as a marketing leader, I feel that you should build the systems in place in order to have as much data on your side, basically, or you become the owner of the data. That could, and I think that's why marketing automation or CRM for marketing is such an important thing, is because you suddenly become owner of the data, but it also comes with a lot of process that you have to put in place to clean everything and making sure that it's actually reliable data, I feel. But I love that you said, hey, I need to have something so that I can do my work and prove my work without going into relying on another team, I would say. Because I think that's what builds your processing, your speed, and also your credibility, I feel, as a marketing leader.
Exactly. And in the same, going back to a growth team handing over something, the same thing goes with tools. Like I initiated it. I mean, it's not my job to put in an attribution tool, really. I would probably, that's more of an ops thing, but I took the initiative. I spent a lot of time in the beginning on making sure that I did the business case, and I made sure where we could get the money from, throwing out something else, right? So that's what people like. Hey, we need a new tool. We can get rid of that, so it's not going to cost extra money. But now, when that's in place, it's handed over to the ops teams, right? That will take care of that, and they're finding the value of that, and they're also making sure that more people in the organization is using the data, etc.
Would you say that's part of the growth team? Like, I don't know, picking like an area of focus, I would say, working on it for 3 months and then seeing how you could hand over this process to the respected teams?
Absolutely. Growth is not just about doing customer facing experiments. It's equally as much on how you can changing internal things or tools. I mean, that's why you have your sort of a prioritization process or something. Like you basically look at where is the highest impact. Okay, if I do that thing, it's gonna give me this much more speed, which allow me to do that thing. Okay, I'll focus on that one first, and then do that thing. Otherwise, that thing is gonna be too slow. But I know, so figuring out the chain of events, and then also delicately planning like how, like in which order you should do it and how much of it. Because sometimes you might just need to, okay, I don't need to be 100% complete and like built like like Rome or like a paint like pixel perfect. I just need to get it 25%. Those 25% is going to unlock 50% more over here. So I'll just do that, and then I do those 50%, and then I can go back, do it another 25%, or just hand it over maybe to someone else that finish that up. So figuring that out is also equally as much for a growth team to be working with, and because you need your speed, you need to be able to do stuff, and sometimes you need to be the driver. Like sales and marketing, they need to talk with each other, right? Okay, let's figure that out, right? Put the instead of sitting there, it's like, who's going to do that? And marketing says that no one calls the lead. Sales says the leads are shit. Okay, well, let's put I had one team member in my room part of the marketing sales meetings, and now I think marketing should always be part of the sales meetings. In fact, one of my team members has been an SDR before, and that I hired her a lot for that reason, because sales is invaluable. There's so much insight you can get from them working together with sales and marketing, doing marketing and sales together. It becomes so much powerful instead of being in two silos. That is very, very, very common. So a marketer, a trait for a good marketer is this person likes to talk with customers, and they understand sales. That's what that's how I see it. I don't know.
I love that. I love that you said you hire an SDR, because I think the past year I had to hire 2 SDRs, and I think I always repeat, hiring SDRs in your growth team is the best hire ever made. because you stand up, because most marketers, they are behind their laptops. Honestly, me as well. Like, I'm behind my laptop. I'm like, you're not facing customers every single day, basically. Even though there's a recommendation, you should speak to your customers every single day. You don't. As a marketer, you have other shit to take care of. So, but SDRs, it's their job. It is their job to talk to the customer. Otherwise, it's, quite hard to be an SDR, I would say. And I love that every Friday we have a stand-up call, 1:00. And the first 10 to 15 minutes, just go around, what's the SDR insights? Tell me about what have you learned this week about our customers? And then the whole marketing team listens and says, oh, wow, we have a specific example. There's this woman that calls like, yeah, I'm part of this segment of the market. We realized actually this was a segment of 20K people in Belgium that would be eligible for the product, but nobody knows how to use the product. Oh, okay, that's cool. Now we just open up a market of 20K people, which nobody's focusing on. And marketing would never discover it with their Google ads or Facebook ads. You would never understand that. You just have one SDR telling you about this in a call, and then the next week somebody says, oh, I've heard this customer as well. And then you have the other SDR saying, yeah, I've heard a few of these things as well. Suddenly you're having a conversation you would never have with your marketing team. You would be talking about data models or whatever it is. Yeah. So I think SDRs, like you hiring an SDR, I think is one of the most invaluable things you can do as a marketing leader.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I agree 100%. That's really interesting stuff.
So with the SDR, I'm going to be closing off because I know you have to jump into the next meeting. But Fred, I just want to thank you a lot for this beautiful conversation, actually. You asked me before the conversation, what do you have to do? Like, what's the structure? It's like, just be yourself. I think you 100% nailed it. So thank you. Thanks a lot for the conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ricardo. It was fun.